Okay, you guys and girls are going to start to think of me as a complete and utter mental case now. But bear with me, you might at least find some of this video possibly a little entertaining, I don't know, obviously. I'm planning on doing a variety of invocation of Santa Claus. Yep, that's right. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Nick has finally lost it. He's lost the plot completely and utterly. Well, but have I? Obviously, I'm an experimental occultist. I don't know whether any form of spiritual being, the angels, the archangels, the man upstairs, Jesus Christ, all of that, has some kind of objective existence. No. But I still do forms of meditation and varieties of prayer just to see if I can get some kind of strange experience with the help of, the altered states of consciousness associated with meditation and prayer. In order for any form of strange experience to happen, not only have you got to be a skilled meditator, but you've also got to have a certain number of ideas built up inside your mind, such as an idea of the deity or spiritual being in question, some of the mythology associated with the individual, maybe choosing a right time of the day, week, month or year which seems to fit or have some kind of connection with the story somehow. And then you need other things like the use of the right colors or the use of the right ritual tools to be able to make the whole thing happen and work, because it all has an impact basically upon your mind. Alright, it's all part of the auto hypnosis type thing. Okay, maybe there'll be not only some mythological sources which you can go to dip in to find out about the fictional or spiritual character that you're contemplating in making communication with. Maybe you could have saturated your mind with some of the different renditions of the stories associated with this character, and maybe there will be a few more repeated memes, so to speak, within your culture which has some kind of connection with the spiritual being, something which certain occultists would call raising the energy of that particular spiritual entity. Maybe there would also be some kind of laws of conduct associated with this particular being that you could try and find out about and try and develop a bit more in-depth understanding as to what it could really mean, to give yourself just that extra bit of information about what this spiritual character is about. And yes, to a certain degree, you would essentially be becoming a religious person or a follower of that particular set of ideas. Now let's think about Christmas itself. Let's think about Christmas itself as a religion in its own right, which is even being followed and practiced by the atheists, which I think is actually really rather hilarious, but never mind. What have you got? You got a central story about a character who happens to be somewhere north where it's cold. You've got an understanding as to what this particular character is supposed to do on Christmas Eve night. You've got a moral story, whether the children are being naughty or nice. Okay. There's the decorations of the temple, so to speak, in terms of Christmas decorations, Christmas trees. There's a repeated meme of the image of this particular character, namely the Santa image appearing on your TV screen with great frequency, as well as inside shop fronts and shopping malls and all the rest of that. And it is a very religious thing. There's even a special meal that people have on this one particular day that helps to celebrate the essence or the spirit of this particular being. So essentially, Father Christmas or Santa Claus at this time of year is actually quite a powerful occult entity, quite a powerful religious entity, for want of a better word. Again, we have no idea whether this spirit of the season actually exists. Well, obviously there is the spirit of the season because people gather together, they exchange gifts, they have fun together. That's essentially the spirit of the season in action, and that can give you an understanding of the character of what this particular ancient pagan god could possibly be. So hypothetically, it would actually be quite an effective form of spiritual exercise if one was to do, the traditional stuff, go into meditation, possibly chant or visualize certain images associated with this particular character, and see whether in an altered state of consciousness, a meditative state of consciousness, one could have a visitation of Santa Claus. Well, it would definitely be a laugh anyway. I might as well just give it a go. And I can see what happens, and if nothing happens, then obviously fine. And if something happens, then obviously, fine. as far as does this being actually exist? Well, it obviously exists in my mind. It exists in your mind, even if you're an atheist, because you're seeing the images, every single day when you go out shopping. Alright, you're also seeing the image or the stories being portrayed to you through all of the cheesy Christmas classics on television. And you're enacting some of the attributes of this particular god when you have your celebratory feast tomorrow on Christmas Day, or when you have your Christmas party and you have too much of the old eggnog. There's even certain sacraments associated with this god. It's like eggnog or things flavored with cinnamon and cloves, mulled wine. And even mulled wine is the same color as some of his clothes. So essentially, it's all connected in some kind of like strange and religious way. So just for a few days of the year, even the atheists are actually following a religion. They don't have to believe in the objective existence of this being, but they're definitely enacting something about it. So with all of this energy of belief floating around in the ether right now, at this season, Santa Claus could come to town. It'll be a fun experiment anyway, so I'm going to give it a go, and I'll post back and we'll see how we can go from there on. And I'll shove it all into one big video, including this clip here, so you'll be able to see the whole thing from the top to the bottom. But it is rather weird that even the atheists are actually getting religious to a certain degree at this time of the year, isn't it? Speak to you in a few moments. Well, I told you think I was crazy, and I suppose I probably, made you quite aware that I probably am 270 short of a picnic, but never mind. All I'm going to do is tell you basically what seemed to happen during the experience. Initially, once I got over the I feel silly kind of like feeling that I had, as well as getting over the feeling of just being aware of everything that's physical the way that it always is, I started sinking more into the meditation. I could feel like the state of consciousness changing ever so slightly, which was of course good, what you expect to happen when you're doing a bit of chanting, and your breathing is doing what it does and you're getting into the whole thing, and it becomes more rhythmic and more meditative. With the chanting of Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, that was actually more powerful than I thought it would be. Maybe because it's rhythmic, I don't know. And there was a feeling of a change in the room. The feeling was very, very subtle, very slight initially. But after a while, it's like my mind tried to work out what this character could actually look like. And I started to get some, visual input inside my mind of a face. The face that I saw was not what I would associate with a traditional image of Father Christmas. Although it was quite a happy face, it was not a Caucasian face. This was someone whose skin was tanned, yes, slightly reddish, as one would possibly associate with this time of the year, but also it was a dark-skinned individual. It's more like a Middle Eastern person rather than a Caucasian. All right, almost as if he was part Asian, part Caucasian, and also had some of the ruddy textures of someone who was full of merriment and had been drinking for an awful lot in his life. The skin seemed to be rather dry. I don't know whether that was like wind tan, or whether this is a character who'd been out in the deserts and had their skin dried, or whether it's someone who had a history of manual labor and had been working outside an awful lot. Either way, the face was very dried out. As far as the age of the individual, 40s to 50s maybe, roughly speaking. So it was not like an ancient old man. Yes, he did have a beard, but it was also relatively short, only a few inches in length. It wasn't like the long flowing thing that we see like exaggerated in various forms of TV or movie entertainment. It wasn't like this extreme beard. Colour of the beard was actually grey flecked with white, not your pure snowy white beard, which I also thought was interesting. Okay, now as far as clothing colouring is concerned, yes, it does. I mean, it was rather blurred. I couldn't quite get a full grip on what that was about, but it appeared to be a combination between red and green all over, including on the hat. The hat appeared to be much more green than it appeared to be red, funnily enough, which I thought was rather interesting and quite dark. But the clothing, the cloak itself, I would say, a combination between a mottled red and green colour, which is also interesting. Despite the fact, of course, I was thinking much more about, the Father Christmas character as being like the fat man. He didn't appear to be like excessively like overweight and bulky, although his presence felt large. It actually felt more like a slimmer individual. So maybe it was more a question of the very traditional idea of Father Christmas as an Odin-like character, a thin, spindly character, rather than something which was fat. Although the feeling which was around him seemed to be like dominating the room, which was curious. Alright. He didn't come with any elves or pixies or anything else like that, so I didn't feel any other, lesser beings with him. But there was a sense of a feeling. There was no real conversation which occurred between me and him, but it was quite a nice feeling. Almost like someone who wants to care for everybody, but doesn't quite know how to do it, apart from in a very limited way of providing, a simple gifts or just a sense of knowledge of presence. So I don't perceive Father Christmas as necessarily being, or this particular experiential entity, as being something which is very high on the social skills level, but someone who, or something, which wants to be there to try and help. So it feels much more like a helping, in inverted commas, spirit rather than anything else. Anyway, just another curious experience to add to the collection. I bid you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a very, very happy and prosperous New Year. And we'll speak again very, very soon.